This special Sukkos podcast is dedicated in loving memory and leilui nishmas Gershon Ben Charles, whose Yahrzeit is today. Gershon Ben Charles, the father of our dear friend Adam Chuckrow, was a special man who had a strong Jewish identity, a person who lived by the dictum of Hillel, do not unto others what you despise. And we dedicate our Torah study today in his loving memory. May his soul be elevated in heaven. We are on the doorstep of the festival of Sukkot, of Sukkos, the Zman Simchas, a time of our joy. Immediately following Yom Kippur, we begin the preparations to build a sukkah, to assemble our four species, and to prepare for this other festival that comes very much in the wake of Rosh Hashanah, 10 days of repentance, and Yom Kippur. This is a 7-day festival. In the diaspora, we always add another day because of the uncertainty of the calendar. And right after the festival of Sukkot, appendaged to it, you have Shemini Atzeres, which is technically a different festival, but because it's all bunched together, it's oftentimes just viewed as one big amalgam of celebration. So if you do the math, we have 7 days plus the 8th day, Shemini Atzeres, plus we add another day in the diaspora. We have 9 days of festivities, of joy, of celebration upcoming. So we're going to build a sukkah, the temporary dwelling. We're going to assemble the four species, the lulav and the esrog. We're going to coincide this all with the conclusion of the Torah. We're going to read the last installment of the Torah, the last parsha, Mezos HaBracha, on Simchas Torah, and we will begin the next cycle of the Torah with Bereshis. We're going to dance and celebrate, and then we're going to have effectively the whole winter without really any celebrations, certainly not of Torah origin. Of course, we'll have the festival of Chanukah, but this is where the festival season really is at its peak. And what I wanted to stress today is what I think is maybe the most fundamental aspect of the festival of Sukkos. It's a very deep idea. It's maybe a bit more advanced than usual. It's an idea that really centers around this festival. It explains why it's connected or how it's connected to the festival of Yom Kippur. It shows us what we're supposed to do and focus on this festival. But it's also an idea that really should accompany us throughout the year. And that, in fact, is true with every festival. Every festival has its core concept, its core insight, its core theme. And that's supposed to be really focused upon during the festival. But it's also imperative to perpetuate this throughout our year. So one idea, of course, of the sukkah, Talmud tells us, leave your permanent dwelling, abandon your climate-controlled, luxurious home, and spend 7 days in the temporary dwelling, in the rickety booth, in the gazebo for 7 days. And then you could go back to your home. Sit in this structure. It's got to have at least 3 walls. It's covered with schach, which is trees or branches, something which has grown from the ground but has been severed from the ground. And when you spend 7 days in the sukkah, in a clearly temporary state, when you go back to your permanent home, you should also remember that your permanent home is also temporary. And your life here is all temporary. And think about what really is permanent, i.e. your soul. That's one of the major themes of this festival. And it's really the major theme of life here. We got the body, we got the soul. One's permanent and one's temporary. And our dilemma and our challenge and the maelstrom in which we are thrust into in life is to choose which world we want to prioritize. This world, the world of the body, or next world, the world of the soul. And when we focus on the temporality of this world for 7 days, it reminds us that really there are only gradients of temporality. Our permanent home, well, how permanent is it really? In 100 years from now, someone else will be living there. And we will be elsewhere. And in truth, that same mega theme is done twice a year. For 7 days, we sit in the sukkah, and for 7 days, we eat the matzah. And these are exactly equidistant from each other, exactly half a year, the 15th day of Nisan and the 15th day of Tishrei. Exactly half a year from each other, we spend 7 days existing on a temporary plane and reminding ourselves that our body and its agenda and its tenure, it's all temporary. And our soul is what really matters, and we hopefully will take that lesson with us throughout the year. But today I want to focus on the festival of Sukkos from a bit of a different angle. Yes, the Torah tells us that we have to dwell in these booths in the sukkah for 7 days. And the Torah gives us a reason. Why must we sit in the sukkah for 7 days? Leviticus chapter 23, verse 44. L'man yedu dorosechem, so your future generations will know. Ki basukos, because in Sukkos, in these booths, Hoshafti is Bnei Yisrael, Botzi Osam Me'eretz Mitzrayim. God gave us Sukkos. When? When we left Egypt. When we left Egypt, we dwelled in these temporary dwelling places. And therefore, when we today, in the 2020s, when we sit in the sukkah, we're simulating what our nation did 3,300 plus years ago. We sat in sukkahs then. We're going to sit in a sukkah now, and we're going to remember the Exodus. And thus, there's again another symmetry between the festival of Sukkos and that of Pesach, because they're both about experiencing what our nation did in the Exodus and the aftermath. Well, what did we eat in the aftermath of the Exodus? We ate matzah. We baked those matzah. We had no time for the dough to rise. Okay, so let's eat matzah and remember the Exodus. We sat in sukkahs. They might have made for us a sukkah in the aftermath of the Exodus. When we left Egypt, where did we live? In temporary dwelling places. And therefore we do the same now, 3,300 plus years ago, to remember the Exodus. Now, what exactly does it mean that in the aftermath of the Exodus, we dwelled in Sukkos? So there's a very famous dispute in the Talmud. According to one opinion, it's Sukkos mamish. It's literal sukkahs. Everyone had some temporary dwelling that was issued to them, and they would pitch their tent, and it was like a kind of a sukkah, and therefore we do the same. However, the opinion featured in Rashi and the opinion cited in the Shulchan Aruch is that the Sukkos, these temporary dwelling places that are featured in the verse that we lived in the aftermath of the Exodus, they are anane kavod, clouds of glory. After the Exodus, the Almighty surrounded us in a sukkah. Well, what does that mean? In a cloud of glory. Really, it's clouds of glory. There were 7 different clouds. One below them. One north, south, east, west, in all 4 directions. One above them. They were in a cube, a cloud cube. And there was a 7th cloud that was the scout, that was preparing the way for them. It was traveling ahead of the nation. And it would flatten the mountains and fill in the valleys and get rid of any pests, any snakes or scorpions along their way. These 7 clouds, they were featured in the aftermath of the Exodus. And these are called Sukkos. And as a result of that, we're supposed to sit in a sukkah now, 3,300 plus years later. Now, of course, everyone's trying to figure out, wait a minute, clouds of glory, I get it. But what does my sukkah have to do with the clouds of glory? It's not immediately clear what the connection is. But it does definitely elevate the experience. That there's supposed to be some sort of overlap between what we're experiencing when we walk into our sukkah that's in some way resembling what the nation experienced when they were enveloped by clouds of glory. Now, to break open the subject, we have to ask a very fundamental question. The Jewish people left Egypt, and lots of miracles happened. They ate the matzah, which we're told in Talmud that tasted like the manna. They traveled very fast outside of Egypt. They were surrounded by clouds of glory. The manna started to descend. They got the Torah. They had the war against Amalek. Lots of things happened right after they left Egypt, splitting of the sea, of course. When did we eat the matzah? Right with the Atzeres, we ate the matzah. So, in the month of Nisan, the month of the Atzeres, that's when the festival of Pesach is, and that's when the festival of the matzah is, and that's when we eat the matzah. Because on that day, 3,300 plus years ago, we ate the matzah in the aftermath of the Atzeres. When did the nation begin to be surrounded by the clouds of glory? Well, the verse tells us, right when they left Egypt, there were clouds that surrounded them. A cloud by day, a pillar of fire by night, which our sages tell us, it was still the clouds, but they were tinted red. You know it's nighttime. The only way they were so hermetically sealed from their environment that when the clouds were white, they knew it was day. When it had a reddish tint to it, they knew it was night. And that happened when? That happened the month of Nisan. So why are we reenacting, whatever that means? We don't know exactly how our sukkah resembles the clouds of glory. But why are we reenacting the clouds of glory now? It's a half a year since the time of the Atzeres. Why do we celebrate Sukkos a half a year after the events that we are reminding ourselves of, that we are commemorating? The Almighty gave us clouds of glory. When was that? Clouds of glory were in Nisan. So we should sit the Sukkah in Nisan. Have one mega festival, 7 days of eating matzah in the Sukkah to commemorate all the miracles that happened with the Atzeres. That would be appropriate. But this point of the year, it's like the furthest point from Pesach, from the Atzeres. Because it's a half a year before and after the events that it's commemorating happened. Why is now the appropriate time for Sukkos? This is a very fundamental question. A very basic question. If you tell me, as Rashi does, as the Talmud does, that the Sukkos that we are sitting in, that's to remember. What? Why? L'man yedu dorosechem, the verse tells us, so that your future generations shall know that we sat in the clouds of glory. Well, what was that? That was 6 months ago. So Rosh Hashanah, that is the same day that God was originally coronated. Adam was created. And he coronated God, and that's why we have the festival on that day, the first day of Tishrei. And the 10th day of Tishrei, Yom Kippur, it's the exact same day that Moshe came down with the second set of tablets. The people were forgiven for the sin of the golden calf. And therefore, that's the day of atonement and forgiveness. Fast forward a little bit into the future, we have Chanukah, the 25th day of the month of Kislev. That is when the temple was reinaugurated. With the Hasmoneans, they defeated the Greeks, and so on. It's exactly that day, and that's what the day that we have the celebration. Purim, same thing. Pesach, same thing. Shavuos, we got the Torah, that day. The only festival, apparently, that commemorates a previous event that's not on the same date of that original event is Sukkos. We're sitting in the Sukkah to remember the clouds of glory, which happened a half a year ago. Or a half a year in the future, depends how you want to look at it. A long time ago. We're literally at the point of the calendar that's furthest away from the events that happened, that we are commemorating. That is a very powerful and fundamental question. And it's a very famous answer, courtesy of the Gaon of Vilna. And what he does, he's going to completely reframe and fundamentally upgrade our understanding of the clouds of glory and the festival of Sukkos and exactly what's happening over here. He tells us the clouds of glory, actually, the 15th day of Tishrei, the first day of Sukkos, that's when the clouds of glory happened. How so? So he tells us. Yes, the nation, when they left Egypt, were surrounded by clouds of glory. True. And when they traveled, they got the manna, and they had the war against Amalek, and they got to Sinai, and the clouds of glory are all there. 40 days after the revelation at Sinai, there's the sin of the golden calf. And Moshe descends from heaven with the first set of tablets and shatters them on the ground. The nation, really, they're supposed to be destroyed. Moshe intercedes and he prays, the nation is spared. But their status has been diminished. The Talmud tells us that they were like Adam before the sin. They had purged themselves of any vestiges of the venom of the serpent. But everything came back. They were lowered. They were depressed. They were spiritually diminished. They no longer had the tablets. And they no longer had the clouds of glory. The clouds went away. They were rendered undeserving of the clouds. And they lost them. Now Moshe goes up to heaven a second time to pray. He goes up to heaven a third time on the first day of Elul. This time God tells him, bring with you stone tablets. We're going to give you a second chance. After 40 days, the third time, Moshe's in heaven, he comes down with the second set of tablets on Yom Kippur. God has forgiven the nation. The next day, it's a very important day. L'machras Yom Kippur, the day after Yom Kippur. Moshe gathers the nation. And he tells them it's time to build the tabernacle. And we need to collect all the different materials. Gold, silver, copper, and so on. Different types of wool, different types of skins, different types of wood, oil. The fundraising mission. And the people respond to the call. So the 11th day of Tishrei, they were told to make this contribution. The verse tells us that there were 2 days of contributions. They brought the nedava, the donations, baboker, in the morning, 2 days of donations. So the 10th day of Tishrei, that's Yom Kippur. The 11th day, that's when Moshe makes the announcement, what we're doing, fundraising. The 12th and the 13th, that's when they actually donated. On the 14th, they have all the materials. Moshe now appoints the people to build it. So, Betzalel and Ahaliav and all the Chacham Lev, all the people who have wise hearts, now they're getting arranged and appointed to start building. And on the 15th day, they start building the tabernacle. And when they started to build the tabernacle, you know what came back? The clouds of glory that had departed when the sin of the golden calf happened. And therefore, actually, this day, the 15th day of Tishrei, it's actually the exact day in the calendar when the clouds of glory returned. And therefore, yes, there is consistency. Every single festival is celebrated on the exact day when the events and when the themes and when the powers of that festival are at their peak and when they originally happened, when they originally expressed themselves. Sukkos indeed happened on the exact day when the clouds of glory came back. Very, very interesting calculation, courtesy of the Gaon of Vilna. Now, like I said earlier, this is going to upgrade our understanding of the whole festival and the whole mitzvah. But it does raise some very, very interesting and important questions. The clouds of glory, we got them twice, right? We got them once with the Atzeres, and we lost them. And we got them back on the 15th day of Tishrei, on the day of Sukkos. It's kind of similar to the tablets. We got the tablets once, and then we lost them, and we got them back. The nation was close to the Almighty, and then we sinned, and we strayed, and then we came back on Yom Kippur. It kind of raises the question, why are we celebrating the reinstitution of the clouds of glory and not the original? Think about it. When do we celebrate the giving of the Torah? We celebrate it on the original giving of the Torah. The Torah was given twice, right? First time Moshe got the first set of tablets, those were destroyed. He got the second set of tablets, those endured. So if the Torah was given twice, we should celebrate, which one do we celebrate? We celebrate the first one. If the clouds of glory were given to us twice, somehow we don't celebrate the first one, we celebrate the second one. It's an interesting inconsistency. So yes, the clouds of glory did come back on the 15th day of Tishrei, but so what? Shouldn't we still celebrate the original clouds of glory? Yom Kippur, that's when we got the second set of tablets. We don't have Shavuos on Yom Kippur. We celebrate the giving of the Torah at the original giving of the Torah. Moreover, the fundamental concept that he's telling us is that clouds of glory, that equals this experience of the Sukkos. That's what the Talmud tells us. But the tabernacle, when you start building the tabernacle, that's when the clouds of glory came back. They didn't come back on Yom Kippur. They came back 5 days later. Start to build the tabernacle. What is the connection between the clouds of glory and the tabernacle? What do we know about the clouds of glory? So the verse tells us, this is all the way right after the Exodus, chapter 13 of Exodus, that there was a pillar of cloud to appoint them or to direct them on their path. It was there to navigate and to illuminate for them. And the Talmud tells us, well, these are not just ordinary clouds. These are miraculous clouds. And they had all sorts of miraculous properties. And the Talmud tells us that we had 3 wonderful leaders, 3 wonderful benefactors, 3 siblings, Moshe and his older siblings, Aaron and Miriam. And each of these benefactors, they merited a different gift to be given to the nation. In the merit of Moshe, we have the manna. In the merit of Miriam, we have the Be'er Miriam, the well of Miriam. And in the benefit of Aaron, we have the clouds. So this festival, it's associated with the tabernacle. It's associated with the clouds of glory. It's associated with Aaron. But we don't really see what is exactly the connection between all these different ideas. And what does the tabernacle have to do with the clouds of glory? Clouds of glory we got in the Exodus, and we got them back with the tabernacle. What's happening here with the clouds of glory, and what is the evolution of the clouds of glory? When it starts off, we know that the clouds of glory are there to appoint and direct and guide them along their way. And the Talmud tells us again, there were 7 clouds, and it made the topography uniform, and it cleared away the dangers. The Talmud tells us that it would flatten the mountains, and it only left 3 mountains. There were only 3 mountains the nation encountered as they traversed through the wilderness. Mount Sinai, of course, for the Torah. Mount Nebo, where Moshe was buried, and Mount Hor, where Aaron was buried. And these were wonderful clouds. Our sources tell us, the Midrash tells us, that it would be a dry cleaning service. When your clothing got dirty, you would take it to the cloud, and you put it into the cloud, and it would spit out clean clothing. And it isolated them from the climate around them. This is very wonderful clouds. cloud service, as we call it today. By the way, I will tell you, a lot of people ask the question, how come there are no physical remains from the 40 years in the wilderness? If it actually happened, where's the archaeology? So that's not a good question for a few reasons. First of all, if you go to a Bedouin encampment in the wilderness, in the desert, after a few decades, there's no remnants because the sands and everything gets cleared away. But if you accept the Torah, well, they're eating manna. That's what they're eating. Manna, there's like no refuse. There's nothing that it leaves over. Plus, they're completely enveloped by these clouds. So they're living in this hermetically sealed environment. And by the way, one of the benefits of these clouds is that they were invisible to their enemies. Right after Aaron died, because Aaron was the benefactor of the clouds, that is exactly when Amalek attacked the nation again. This is in chapter, I think, 20 or 21 of the book of Numbers. It's a pretty cool thing to have, to be enveloped and cocooned by these clouds. And of course, when the clouds moved, the nation moved. The verse tells us in chapter 9 of Bamidbar of Numbers, Ulefi ha'elos ha'anon ma'al ha'oel, when the cloud lifted up from upon the tent, meaning the tabernacle, it was time to move. But the connection between the cloud and the tabernacle is not yet quite obvious. Now, there's something really cool here, just as an aside. We are told in the very reputable sources that the war of Gog and Magog, the apocalypse, is going to happen on the festival of Sukkos. And when we pray in Psalms 27, God will shelter me bisukko in his sukkah. On an evil day, he'll protect me. That's a reference to this war, the war of Gog and Magog. And during the festival of Sukkos, we have the special prayers called Hoshanas. And one of the Hoshana prayers is Hoshana Shalosh Shos, Hoshana, save us, grant us salvation. 3 hours, grant us salvation. That's because this war, this apocalyptic war of Gog and Magog, it's going to be a 3-hour war on Sukkos. Maybe specifically on Hoshana Rabbah, which is the last day of Sukkos. And anyone who's going to walk into their sukkah as the missiles are flying will have the same effect as someone who walks into the clouds of glory when the enemies want to attack. They become impervious to attack. That's what we're told in the Tur, in the Gaon of Vilna, in very, very ancient sources. So there's something about our sukkah that reenacts the clouds of glory and all of its benefits and all its protective powers. And that is intimately associated with the tabernacle. The clouds of glory initially weren't really associated with the tabernacle. When we first left Egypt, well, there's no mention of a tabernacle. Only in the aftermath of the sin of the golden calf, and the repentance, and the atonement of Yom Kippur, and the fundraising mission, and the donations, and the actual building of the tabernacle, the clouds of glory come back, and these are different clouds of glory. These are clouds of glory that are associated with the tabernacle. And thus, on the 15th day of Tishrei, when the clouds of glory came back in a newer, better, upgraded version, now they're associated with the tabernacle. Well, now we build the sukkah. So just to organize our questions before we explain the essence of the matter here. These clouds of glory are associated with Aaron. The festival of Sukkot, we can say, is associated with Aaron. It's associated with the tabernacle. Well, we know that who's the Kohen in the tabernacle? That's Aaron. But what exactly is Aaron's connection and Aaron's role to the tabernacle, to the clouds of glory? And what does it mean for us? We have a festival associated with the clouds of glory. Where's the festival associated with the manna? We're told there were 3 benefactors, and Moshe, and Aaron, and Miriam. So, if the festival of Sukkos is associated with the clouds of glory, maybe there should be a festival associated with the manna, or with the Be'er Miriam, with the wellspring of Miriam. What exactly is the connection between building the tabernacle? Why does that trigger the restoration of the clouds of glory? Why, when the building of the tabernacle commenced on the 15th of Tishrei, why were the clouds restored precisely then? And if you think about it, on Yom Kippur, 5 days prior, the nation got the second set of tablets. God said, I forgave you. What else is needed? Like, why do we still need to have a tabernacle? Why is there still a need to elaborate upon what we experienced in Yom Kippur? These 2 festivals are very much connected. Yom Kippur, right away, Sukkos. And Yom Kippur did not give us the clouds of glory back. It didn't come back. There's something missing on Yom Kippur. 5 days later, we have the building of the tabernacle. Okay, now we get the clouds of glory back. So let's understand this. Again, I know it's very deep, lots of different questions, but let's get to the fundamental essence of the matter. Sukkos is the celebration and the reenactment of Aaron's contribution, the clouds of glory. And the clouds are connected with the tabernacle. Yom Kippur came, the nation was forgiven, they got the second tablets. They did not get the clouds of glory, at least not these clouds of glory. There's a different timeline here. There's different elements here. With the sin of the golden calf, they lost both the tablets and the clouds, both the tablets of Moshe and the clouds of Aaron. And they're both restored on different timelines. On Yom Kippur, God forgave the Jewish people, and Moshe comes down with a second set of tablets. 5 days later, the nation begins to build the tabernacle, the clouds of glory, the clouds of Aaron. They come back. Clouds came twice, tablets came twice. Both are associated with a festival. When it comes to the tablets, we celebrate the original, i.e. Shavuos. When it comes to the clouds, we celebrate the second time the clouds come, the ones that came with the building of the tabernacle. Here's the idea. There's a fundamental difference between Moshe and Aaron. These 2 brothers play very different roles. Moshe is the benefactor of the manna. He gives us the tablets. He gives us the Torah. Moshe's role is to go up to heaven and to bring it down to us. Go up to heaven, get the tablets. Go up to heaven, get the Torah. Go up to heaven, get the manna. And it all descends down from heaven for our benefit. Manna and Torah is the same thing. It's something amazing that descends from heaven to be absorbed and digested and enjoyed by the people and to be elevated by it. Torah, that is the ingredients to turn man into angel. Manna is lechem abirim. It's the food, the bread of angels. The experience of eating the manna transformed a person from a beast, from a human, to an angel. And that's Moshe's role, to drop down from heaven, to parachute from heaven, the wonderful properties and wonderful abilities to elevate and transform a person. And by the way, we do have a festival of the manna. It's called Shavuos. We do have a festival to celebrate that. That's when we got the Torah. The Talmud tells us, Lo nitna Torah ella la'ochlei aman. The Torah cannot be given to anyone aside from those who ate manna. The celebration of the Torah is a celebration of the manna as well. It's a celebration of something thanks to Moshe, something glorious and wondrous that descends from heaven in Moshe's merit. And it's for us, and for us to experience, to absorb, to digest, and to be transformed as a result. Aaron has a very different job. Aaron has a different role to play. Aaron, he is there to make sure that the inspiration gets filtered out throughout the nation. Moshe gives us the manna. Aaron makes sure that we eat and chew it properly. He distributes it to us. The way I like to think about this is Moshe, his role is vertical, to take the divine inspiration and drop it down to us. Aaron's role is horizontal, to take what Moshe dropped to us and make sure everyone gets it and everyone's elevated on their level. By way of analogy, we know that the vessels in the tabernacle, they each represent a different idea, a different element. There are 3 vessels in the tabernacle that have crowns around them. The ark has the crown of Torah around it. The table has the crown of the monarchy around it. And the inner golden altar has the crown of the priesthood around it. And everything symbolizes some important element. It's been observed that there are 2 vessels that represent Torah. The aforementioned ark. Well, the ark, it's got the crown of Torah around it. And inside the ark, well, there's the tablets. Both sets of tablets. And inside the ark is next to the ark, is the Torah scroll that Moshe wrote. So the ark is very much associated with the Torah. But guess what? So is the menorah. The menorah is about the illumination of the Torah. And the sources all agree upon that. So wait a minute. Which one is symbolic of the Torah? Is it the ark that houses the tablets of Moshe? Or is it the menorah that Aaron kindles? And the answer is both. Moshe's role is to take the Torah from heavens and bring it down here. Aaron's role is to take the Torah that Moshe brought here and to illuminate in every direction to every person, to every soul, to every heart. Moshe is vertical. Aaron is horizontal, and they're complementary. They're both needed, really. One is to actually extract the wonder and the delight and the joy and the transformation from heaven and to bring it here. But Moshe doesn't do house calls. He doesn't make sure that everyone gets what they need. That is Aaron's job. That's the menorah. To create an environment here where everyone is uplifted. Moshe is like, drop the manna, you gotta go find it yourself. Drop the Torah, you have to go study it yourself. You have to retrieve it, you have to collect it yourself. Aaron's role, Aaron never went up to heaven, as far as we know. His job is not to bring anything down from heaven. His job is to take what Moshe brought down from heaven and to make sure everyone gets what they need. To create an environment where the power of the Torah can be experienced by all. To make it real and powerful and enduring in this world. Aaron does do house calls. Takes what Moshe delivered and makes sure that everyone gets what they need. Feeds the people. Moshe, he does the big trip from heaven here. Aaron does the last mile. And we're told that Aaron, well, he's the benefactor in whose merit we got the clouds. Which direction do the clouds go? They travel horizontally. They're always with us. They don't drop down from heaven to us. They're surrounding the nation and making sure on our dimension they're moving with us in a horizontal, Aaronic fashion. And something very fundamental happened. Something changed. There was a big adjustment that happened. Moshe had two sets of tablets. The first set of tablets and the second set of tablets. The first set of tablets were destroyed. The second set of tablets endured. Were these tablets identical? Well, the Torah says that God will write on the second tablets what were written on the first tablets. V'chasavti al haluchos, I will write on the second tablets, es hadvarim, the words that were on the first tablets, asher shibart, that you shattered. So on one level, they're the same. However, there's a big difference. The first set of tablets were crafted and hewn by God and written upon by God. The second set of tablets, God tells Moshe, Psal lecha shnei luchos v'nim, you make the stones and I'll write on the stones. Tablets 1 were completely the handiwork of God. Tablets 2, well, it's partially done by God. The writing is done by God, but the stone tablets were hewn by Moshe. So if you were to ask the question, what's the difference between first tablets, second tablets? First tablets are completely godly. And those were shattered. Moshe shattered that. And Moshe got tablets 2.0, but they're a lower level. We got two sets of tablets. We celebrate the first one, the more powerful one, the more elevated one, the Shavuos one, not the Yom Kippur ones. That was Moshe's adjustment. Aaron had an adjustment as well. Clouds of glory, we got them twice. The original clouds of glory and the new clouds of glory that come with the building of the tabernacle. Are they the same clouds of glory? They are not. The first clouds of glory are wonderful, delightful. It's great to have this cocoon to live in. It's great to have this dry cleaning service to be enjoyed. It's great to flatten the mountains and to fill up the valleys and to kill all the snakes and scorpions along the way. But these clouds had nothing to do with a tabernacle quite yet. The clouds were clouds. Glorious clouds, certainly. But they were transformed and elevated when they came around the second time with the building of the tabernacle. So if we compare the tablets to the clouds, Moshe's role or Moshe's contribution was diminished from 1 to 2. Aaron's, his role was augmented, was increased, was expanded from 1 to 2, from clouds of glory to clouds of glory of the tabernacle. Moshe, he descends from heaven twice with tablets. Once by Sinai, once on Yom Kippur, and the tablets were downgraded. Luchos 2.0, it's carved by man, it's hewn by man, as opposed to God. So of course, when we celebrate the tablets, we do it when it was at its zenith on Sinai on Shavuos. Aaron's role of creating the environment in which the nation can flourish, his role was upgraded. Yes, the clouds provided certain physical protection for the nation. It's nice, it's convenient, and it's pleasant. But the initial clouds of glory of Aaron, it was initially much more physical. And then there's this terrible sin, golden calf. And everything changed. Now, Aaron, your role is expanded. You're in charge of the Mishkan, of the tabernacle. These clouds are still going to be there, but now they're going to be hovering over the tabernacle. Your role is to make a different level of holiness, of an environment of worship of the nation here. Yes, the clouds were a wonderful thing before they were reinstituted. But now Aaron's role is to be the Kohen. It's to run the tabernacle. And now those clouds are associated with the tabernacle. In fact, the verse tells us, Vayichas he'anan, this is in Atzeres chapter 40, after the tabernacle was built. The verse tells us that the clouds, they always were connected with the tabernacle. They always dwelled upon the tabernacle. The clouds now symbolize the Almighty's presence in their midst. That's what the clouds indicate now. God's presence in our environment. Moshe's luchos were downgraded. Aaron's clouds were upgraded. And thus we're going to celebrate the newer and better version of Aaron's role. We could even speculate the final praise that we're given in the Torah about Moshe is to the strong hand and to the morad, to the great awe that Moshe did before the eyes of all of Israel. This is the last verse of the Torah. Le'enei kol Yisrael, to the eyes of all of Israel. So Moshe did something wondrous before the eyes of all of Israel. What did he do? So Rashi tells us that he was inspired to shatter the first set of tablets. This is a very consequential decision because Moshe is going to limit his own role. Tablets 2.0 are not quite as impressive. And effectively, Moshe is going to take what he forfeited and give that to Aaron. There's going to be a balance now between Moshe's role and Aaron's role. Previously, Moshe had a much larger role than Aaron, and now they're more balanced. The revelation, the manna, the tablets, Moshe's role is a bit less. The tablets, we still have them. It's wonderful. It's written upon by God, but it's not quite the way it was. But the environment that Aaron's role is going to be situated, oriented around, now we're talking about a tabernacle. And that is what's happening on this festival. Just a way to think about this. It's called Zman Simchas, the time of our joy. Where is the joy of this festival? So the easy answer is, well, we come after Yom Kippur and we're all cleansed, we have no more sins, and that makes us very happy. On a deeper level, the essence of joy is creating harmony amongst opposites. When heaven and earth unite, that is an experience of joy. The festival of Sukkos is a joyous experience because the revelation of Moshe and the elevated environment of Aaron are now united. Moshe and Aaron, their roles are now balanced. The tablets and the tabernacle / clouds of glory have now come together. So this answers all of our questions that we had initially. What's Aaron's role with the clouds of glory, with the tabernacle? Well, that's his job. His job is to make sure that everyone here is well fed with the spirituality delivered to us by Moshe. And yes, we do have a festival of the manna. That's called Shavuos. That's celebrating Moshe's role. The fact that something can come down from heaven and be given to us. The building of the tabernacle, that is the expansion of Aaron's role. That's the expansion of the clouds of glory. And we celebrate Aaron's role, Aaron's new and expanded role, with the festival of Shavuos. Now, these ideas are very powerful and very deep and very profound ideas. But it shows us what is happening here on these days. Yom Kippur is a Moshe experience. God descends, so to speak, from heaven, whatever that means, and says, I have forgiven you. And Moshe comes down with the second set of tablets. It's us absorbing this incredible outpouring of divine power and vitality. It's the festival of Moshe. It's a version of Sinai, really. It's maybe a bit more diminished version of Sinai, because the tablets 2.0 don't quite match up to tablets 1.0, but it's a Moshe experience. Immediately after that, we have an Aaron experience. With the holy revelation of Yom Kippur, it's time for us to take that and create an environment in which we live. Take this revelation and translate this into our lives. Build a sanctuary for God in our heart. Take this Yom Kippur and make it practical and useful for us and enduring for us. We need to channel Aaron. And we reenact the clouds of glory with our sukkah. With our sukkah, we have the possibility of experiencing a degree of the supernal loftiness of the clouds of glory of the tabernacle. When you walk into the sukkah, on some level, you're walking into the tabernacle. You're walking into the clouds of glory. Which is why the halacha says you have to have a certain presence of mind when you walk into the sukkah. You can't be lightheaded, in the words of the sources. You have to sit be'ema u'be'yira, with seriousness and with awe. And you can just be the chit-chat. You're like in the temple on some level. This is the experience of integration. What we experience in Yom Kippur, we want to find a way to filter it into our lives. And there is a very ancient and widespread tradition to invite 7 shepherds to our sukkah. Now, what does that mean? The 7 shepherds, the 7 ushpizim. What does that mean? It's to invite the 7 great leaders of our people, shepherds of our people, to come to us in our sukkah to hang out with us. Day 1, we invite Abraham. Day 2, Isaac. Day 3, Jacob. Well, that makes sense. Day 4, Joseph. Then Moshe, then Aaron, and then King David. What are they doing in our sukkah? The experience of the sukkah is to take our environment and to transform it, just like the clouds of glory did, just like Aaron did, just like the tabernacle did. And we're trying to do the same. We're inviting these people who have so much to teach us. We're inviting them into our orbit. We're trying to create an environment in which the powerful inspiration and revelation that we received in Yom Kippur, that we received courtesy of Moshe, now let's find a way to integrate that into our lives. And the last day of Sukkos, the last prayer that we say, we pray to sit in another sukkah, the sukkah of the Leviathan. Now, what does that mean? I don't know exactly what it means, but it's a reference to a very different type of living. When there is a full merger, a full bonding of Moshe and Aaron within us, where we take all this incredible revelation, the Torah, the tablets, the manna, and fully integrate it within ourselves, that world is called Messiah. And we're told on some level that there's going to be we're going to experience the Leviathan, whatever that means. But that's going to be an experience where this elevated life, where my guests are Moshe and Aaron and Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and Joseph and David, that's not just a 7-day experience. That's who we are. That's how we live. That is what we're trying to do. We're trying to achieve on Sukkos. Now, it does fit in very nice. It does dovetail with the initial idea that we said, to realize that our life here is temporary, and to focus on the permanent self, on our soul. Well, what does it look like if you're living as a soul? Well, that's Messiah. That's Aaron. That's the tabernacle. That's a life of the clouds of glory. We once had a 40-year experience of this in the halcyon days of the wilderness. We lived like angels. We ate the manna, the food of the angels, the bread of the angels. And what did we do all day? What was our passion and pastime? It was the Torah. We were living like angels. We had Moshe and his Torah with Aaron and his delivery of the Torah to us. And we were angels, effectively angels, eating the manna. Our job is to recreate that. You go into Israel and suddenly all the miracles are no longer there. And we are tasked with recreating that without being given the divine assist, so to speak, of the manna and the clouds of glory. Recreate the status and the experience that you had in the wilderness. And that's what we're trying to simulate here for 7 days, because we hope to have this permanently in the Leviathan, with the Sukkah of David, with the restoration of our national glory, with the coming of the Messiah. That's what we're trying to do. And it's very elevated and very profound and a bit arcane, perhaps. But that's our job. And it depends upon us being willing to separate a little bit from our physicality. There is a zero-sum game here. Body and soul are zero-sum. To the degree that we expand the role of our soul, we are diminishing the role of our body. To the degree that we're willing to depart from not just the temporary house and a temporary life, but everything that is associated with a temporary world, with a temporary universe. That is the degree that we're creating the space for a permanent self, for our soul to flourish within ourselves. That's the experience of Sukkos. Moshe delivered to us on Yom Kippur a bounty of elevation. Now it's time to make that real within us. And to the degree that we do that, we're channeling the Aaron role, the Aaron experience, the tabernacle, the clouds of glory, filtering it within ourselves, digesting it within ourselves. To the degree that we do, we're tapping into the power of Sukkos, and we're experiencing the joy of Sukkos. And please God, this will be a prelude to the future time where we will dwell in the Sukkah of the Leviathan. May we all experience a joyous Sukkos, a happy, healthy, safe one. May we experience a little bit of the joy and of the delight and of the elevation that is present inside our Sukkah. And hopefully we'll be able to take some of those values and those achievements with us throughout our year and throughout our lives. I appreciate your attention and for listening to this. I know it's a little bit more elevated and subtle than we typically do. That's okay. It's a new year. We can handle it. But if you want to send me any comments or questions or feedback, my email address is rabbiwolbe@gmail.com.